I feel very honoured, and what I wanted to do, which is what I did, was thank Michael Eavis for having the inspiration for Glastonbury in the first place, using his farmland for it, but also giving everybody this space. And you think about it, people start with what was probably seen as a pretty zany idea at the time. Let's have a festival in a field in a farm. We're talking 1970, 71, somewhere about then. And look at it now, it's now a total fixture. And demand for tickets is outstripped supply manyfold. Oh, quite incredible. I've only ever seen such big crowds before. When I spoke at a rally in Mumbai some years ago at the World Social Forum and at the huge Stop the War demonstration in 2003, just this enormous crowd of people. And the only way to do is make your speech like you're talking to friends and just talk as you think about things and try and put forward some concepts and some ideas. And amazing response, wonderful people, and I hope they enjoyed it.
I think they are largely friends.
And what I enjoy is the fact that people are now talking about inequality, injustice and poverty, talking about possibilities and hopes for the future, and I find that very exciting. Joan Baez, because she has sung as long as I can remember. She has the most amazing, beautiful voice, and she's such a kind and lovely person. I've met her once when I was speaking at a rally in San Francisco. She was due to play after I'd finished my speech, and she then said to me, "What would you like me to sing?" Wow. And so I was thinking of all the lovely songs, so I chose Silver Dagger. And she said, "What is it? With all you British men, you always choose Silver Dagger." I said, "I've no idea." Lovely woman. I'd love her to headline. I can't call myself musical, but I love music. So I don't sing and I don't sadly play any instrument. I like listening to a variety of things. I actually quite like listening to some classical music. So Mahler particularly I like.
Particular symphony?
Mahler's Fifth, but I also like Aaron Copland very much. And I like some of the Russian musicians, Stravinsky particularly. But I also listen to some folk music. I listen to various 1960s, 70s and 80s pop music, and I love listening to world music as well, kind of late night stuff, Late Junction and things like that, where you get this incredible variety of music from Latin America, from Africa, South Asia and so on. You realise actually music is something that's there in everybody. Every society has a different musical genre, and bring that together. So perhaps one of the most interesting places for music around the world is Brazil, because it brings together a Latin American tradition which is relatively modern. It also has its origins in African music from the slaves that were disgracefully taken to Brazil, and it has this amazing carnival. The formative years of my life were in the Caribbean. I spent 2 years in Jamaica, and I love Jamaican music, but I also loved the carnival in Trinidad, Mardi Gras. Well, I was obviously disappointed at what happened last year. I was very disappointed that some colleagues chose to resign from the shadow cabinet, and I felt that I'd been elected to lead the party by the party members, and I was proud to do so. And a number of parliamentary colleagues thought differently, and there was a leadership election, and the result is well known. And we had the general election campaign, which we fought really hard in, and a very effective campaign, and we ended up with the biggest increase in Labour vote any time since 1945. My only regret is we didn't quite win the general election, but we're ready for the next one.
When is the next one happening?
As soon as possible. I'm ready for it. August is good enough for me, it's fine for me. I don't need to go on holiday in August, I can do a general election.
You remember?
I've spoken this morning to Georgia Gould, the leader of Camden Council. I've spoken to Tulip Sadiq, who's the MP for the area, and it is a terrifying revelation that these recently clad towers have been clad with flammable materials and therefore could be very, very dangerous if there was a fire. London Fire Brigade have announced that it's a very dangerous place. The council took what was, I'm sure, a difficult but correct decision to evacuate the buildings, temporarily rehouse everybody, and take the dangerous cladding off. But that is a lesson that sadly is now being learnt all over the country, that we've made some terrible mistakes on the material that's been put onto buildings, and that we need sprinklers in buildings, we need safe building materials, we need tough building control regulations, and I think we've got to think quite a lot about the policy of how we develop high-rise buildings. But it's a national issue. The government must stump up with the cash. They cannot go on with cutting by as much as 40% local authority budgets over the past 5 years, then expect them to be able to cope with a huge demand like this. And so I've spoken to local government leaders, and we'll be putting those demands. But the Prime Minister needs to come to Parliament again and describe what is going on, and it needs an emergency approach by government, including the use of COBRA if necessary, to put the resources there together now. Anyone living in a high-rise is now worried, rightly so, and the fire service do an incredible job, but they too have had cuts. We cannot go on like this. You cannot go on underfunding public services and not face a consequence. I've only just heard this myself, just when I came off the stage here, and I think it indicates just how vulnerable we are to cyber attacks and our cyber security. At the end of, during May, there was a cyber attack on our National Health Service. NHS records were held to ransom basically by criminals, but it proved how vulnerable we are to a cyber attack, and Parliament has now suffered one. We need to be investing in cyber protection. It's a huge issue and a huge threat. Listen, we all rely on computers, we all rely on emails, we all rely on digitalised records. That is the world in which we live. You wouldn't leave your building without putting important documents and papers under lock and key. A computer is exactly the same. You have to have a very sophisticated system of protection. And again, I'll be questioning the government on this about the need to invest in cyber security protection.